Welcome to PVT Express News. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new videos. And now, here's today's content. It only took one sentence to change everything. Not a dramatic declaration. Not a rehearsed line. Just a few simple words from Soo-kai spoken at the wrong, or perhaps right, moment that quietly shifted the entire atmosphere in the room. At first, no one realized what had just happened. The event itself was meant to be routine. Another promotional appearance, another polished interaction in front of cameras and fans. The stage was set as usual: bright lights, flashing cameras, and a carefully controlled environment where every smile, every answer, and every gesture was expected to follow an invisible script. Soo-kai and Tansongyun stood side by side, as they had many times before. Comfortable. Familiar. Professional. And yet, something felt different. There was a subtle tension in the air, not obvious enough to point out, but impossible to ignore if you were paying close attention. It lingered in the pauses between words, in the way their eyes met just a second too long, in the slight stiffness beneath otherwise natural smiles. Tansongyun looked composed, as always. Her expression was warm, approachable, but there was a faint flicker of something deeper in her eyes. A quiet nervousness, perhaps. The kind that only reveals itself in fleeting moments. Soo-kai, on the other hand, seemed relaxed. He joked, smiled, and interacted with ease, just as fans had come to expect. Nothing about him suggested that anything unusual was about to happen. Until it did. The interview began smoothly. Light questions. Easy laughter. Safe answers. The kind of conversation designed to entertain without revealing too much. Then came the question. Simple. Ordinary. Predictable. How would you describe your chemistry? It was the kind of question actors hear countless times. One that usually invites playful, carefully measured responses, compliments that sound sincere but remain safely within professional boundaries. Everyone expected the same this time. But Soo-kai didn't answer right away. He paused. And in that pause, something shifted. It was brief, just a few seconds, but long enough for the room to grow noticeably quieter. Long enough for the cameras to capture every subtle change in his expression. Long enough for people to feel that something unscripted was about to unfold. He looked at Tansongyun. Not casually. Not performatively. But with a kind of focus that made everything else seem to fade into the background. And then he spoke. His words weren't dramatic. In fact, they were surprisingly simple. But they carried a weight that no one had anticipated. He said she was different to him. That working with her didn't feel like just another project. That being around her felt different. There was no playful tone. No attempt to soften or disguise the meaning. Just a quiet sincerity that felt almost out of place in such a controlled environment. For a moment, no one reacted. Then everything happened at once. A ripple moved through the crowd, some fans gasped, others cheered, while a few simply fell into stunned silence. Even the interviewer seemed caught off guard, as if the conversation had suddenly veered off script. And Tansongyun? She smiled. But it wasn't her usual smile. There was something more complex behind it, something layered. A mix of surprise, composure, and something else that was harder to define. The next few seconds would go on to become one of the most replayed clips among fans. Because it wasn't just what was said. It was what wasn't. Their eyes met again, this time without words to interrupt the moment. And in that look, there was a kind of quiet understanding, or perhaps a question left unanswered. It was subtle, fleeting, but powerful enough to spark endless speculation. Was it a confession? Or just a moment that felt more meaningful than it really was? In the entertainment world, the line between reality and illusion is notoriously thin. What appears genuine can easily be part of a larger narrative, carefully crafted to engage audiences and generate attention. But that's what made this moment so compelling. It didn't feel crafted. It didn't feel planned. It felt real. And that uncertainty was all it took. Within hours, the clip began circulating across social media. Fans dissected every frame, analyzing expressions, tone, and body language with almost forensic precision. Sukai's pause became a topic of debate. Tansongyun's smile was studied from every angle. Even the silence between them was treated as evidence. Some were convinced it was a hidden confession, a rare glimpse of genuine emotion breaking through the surface. They pointed to the sincerity in his voice, the intensity of his gaze, the timing of his words. Others were more skeptical. They argued that moments like these are easily misinterpreted. That actors, after spending months working closely together, often develop a natural closeness that can be mistaken for something deeper. Chemistry, after all, is part of their profession. And sometimes, it's just that. But what made the situation even more intriguing was what came next. Nothing. No clarification. No explanation. No attempt to address the growing speculation. Both Sukai and Tansongyun remained silent. And that silence only made everything louder. Because silence can mean many things. It can be a deliberate choice to let people interpret things as they wish. It can be uncertainty, not knowing how to explain something that wasn't meant to be explained. Or it can be something else entirely. Something unspoken. In the days that followed, every interaction between them was placed under a microscope. Public appearances, interviews, even brief moments captured off camera, all of it became material for analysis. Did they seem closer? Or were they more distant? There were small details that kept the conversation alive. The way Sukai seemed to listen more attentively when Tansongyun spoke. The way he instinctively turned toward her, even in group settings. The quiet, shared smiles that felt just a little more personal than before. None of it was definitive. But together, it painted a picture that fans couldn't ignore. Meanwhile, Tansongyun maintained her composure. Professional. Calm. Unrevealing. She didn't confirm anything. But she didn't deny anything either. And somehow, that made everything even more intriguing. Behind the scenes, there were whispers. Some sources claimed that after the cameras stopped rolling, the two had a brief conversation offstage. No one knew what was said, but their expressions, reportedly more serious than before, only added to the mystery. Was it a moment of realization? A quiet acknowledgement of something that had unintentionally been revealed? Or simply a discussion about how to handle the sudden attention? No one knew for sure. And perhaps that's why the story endured. Because over time, the focus began to shift. It was no longer just about finding an answer. It became about the possibility. The idea that something genuine might have surfaced, even if only for a moment. Fans began to embrace the ambiguity. They created their own interpretations, their own narratives, reimagining what that moment meant, what might have been felt, what could have been left unsaid. The clip became more than just a video. It became a story. A moment that lived on, evolving each time it was revisited. Even now, as both Sukai and Tansongyun continue with their careers, new projects, new appearances, new roles, that moment remains. Unresolved. Unexplained. Unforgettable. When they appear together again, their interactions seem more measured. More controlled. But there's still something there. Not obvious. Not dramatic. Just a subtle awareness. Like two people who shared a moment that can't quite be undone. In the end, maybe this story was never about a confession. Maybe it was about something much simpler and much more powerful. The impact of a single honest moment. A moment that blurred the line between performance and reality. A moment that reminded everyone watching that even in a world built on scripts and expectations, something real can still slip through. And when it does, it doesn't need to be explained. Because sometimes, the mystery is what makes it unforgettable. Please join the discussion. Feel free to leave comments. Welcome to my channel. Thank you all.